like turn it off or dial it down around him. So he really didn't know. So I had to, a part of this process was coming out of the closet, the spiritual closet, to him, number one, right? And so that was in 2020. That kind of all happened at the same time. And he was like, well, we'll figure it out. That was his response. We'll figure it out. Because I was expecting him to like be like, I'm out. This is too weird. I'm gone. I'm totally out. But it was a risk that I was willing to take, because at this point I realized that I have to be who I am.
Welcome to Conversation for the Soul. I'm Linda Christine. Today I talk with Andena Sananda Kumara. This woman is the embodiment of the I Am presence. Her anchoring in her authenticity is so strong and so powerful, and she's so joyful and so exciting to talk with. I think you're really going to love this conversation. A few of the things that we touched upon today was just anchoring in love and how important that is. She talks about some of her light code artwork that she's been creating and what kind of things are coming from that beautiful expression. We talk about Atlantis and the draw to Florida. We talk about authenticity, and she gives us a beautiful light language activation at the end. I think you're really going to enjoy this show. And of course, before we begin, I'm going to ask you to like, share, and subscribe, because these stories are beautiful teachers. And the way we get the word out is by hitting the like button, hitting the share button, and hitting the subscribe button. So I appreciate y'all for doing so, and we will get going with today's show. Welcome, Andena. It's so wonderful to have you here today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm so happy and excited to be with you, and to see what comes through, because I've gotten so much excitement and feedback from my guidance just in preparing for this conversation. It's kind of exciting. So I'm excited to see where this goes. Exciting is the word. Excitement.
Yeah, exciting. I love it. I love it. It was like the day when we first met. I mean, that was so trippy in itself.
It was.
You know.
Yeah.
And nothing is a mistake. Everything is in divine guidance. And just even stumbling upon you somehow on Facebook, the Minneapolis Q hit me. Then I'm like, oh, I got to check her out because she's Minneapolis and she's here. And I used to be there and I'm here. And then, wow, where it led. My Nibiru sister. And I looked it up the other day. For anyone, y'all are probably like going, what are they talking about? We did an eye gazing exercise at this self-love little mini afternoon retreat that a friend of mine and I did. And I did an eye gazing with you, and that came through.
Yeah.
I didn't even know Nibiru, is that how you say it? I didn't even know that was a real planet. I thought it was something I heard in a Disney movie.
Right. Like I have never even heard or had any associations of that with myself. So it's like been an impetus for me to now go down the rabbit hole with that whole aspect of me, right? Because I didn't even know that was a thing, but it resonated so viscerally within me that I know it is a thing. There is a story associated in that space. So yeah.
If you've never done eye gazing, to anyone out there listening, it's wild. It is crazy. I'm sitting there gazing into this woman's eyes and I'm thinking things in my head and I'm going, you're reading my thoughts, aren't you? And she's sitting there nodding every time I'd ask a question. And I'm like, this is trippy.
I knew you were asking questions. I knew you had this dialogue going on. And I was like, I don't know. Consciously, I have no clue what's being shared, but I have a response to it. My guides are saying, there's a connection there between the two of you. Yeah.
How cool is it going to be when the world is really operating on this level?
I know. It is. So it's all exciting stuff. And even the gentleman that I gazed with, he had an experience where he saw me shift. My eyes shift into those leering cat eye things. And it was just
oh, wow. Yeah, that's my dear friend Topher. Yeah, that's so cool. That is so cool. Wow.
Yeah.
So tell me what, okay, I'm getting ahead of myself because I'm so excited now. Your excitement's just like funneling into me right now. I can feel it. How did your awakening journey start? Was it a slow process over time, or was there bam, something like really hit you upside the head to really shake you?
Well, it's a combination of the two things, right? I think that's how it goes for many of us. It's
Yeah.
not always that lightning strike moment where you just instantly shift. I've been in this space all of my life. Like I've been tapped in all of my life, but I didn't have that family support because in my household, it was seen that side of things was seen as taboo, and I learned that kind of early. So I didn't have anyone to talk to about the things that I saw, the shadow people that would always pop up in
Mm,
my bedroom when I would be asleep at night when I was little. Now,
wow.
at the time, that was always scary for me. In retrospect, looking back on those things that happened, they were never a threat. They would dance on the side of my bed, like they would stand on the side of my bed and dance or do something, but they were always there. But I just didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know how to
He knows
process.
you're Lyran, so has to be here.
But a series of things happened, and I called my awakening a progressive awakening because one experience would build on the next, build on the next, build on the next. And at this point, looking back on that, I can see that we were establishing trust. Like it was just a series of things that happened, and I would always just trust the voice. I always listened to the voice. Like or I never saw them fully fleshed out. I never saw my guides fully fleshed out. I could always feel that presence, right? I always knew there was a presence there, and I would hear this voice in my head, not audibly, but as a thought that just
Yeah.
wasn't mine, but I always trusted that voice. And there were some things that happened where I should have been hurt, where I
Mm,
should have potentially died. And none of that happened because I trusted the voice. Even in
mm.
the most ridiculously crazy situations, I would always, no matter what, I would just go with the voice and not give it a second thought. And bring it up to 2020. I was in the corporate world doing software development. And that's why I was in Minneapolis because the job took me to Minneapolis. And I'm working there. And I get to a point where I realize that it's time to make a move. This is no longer a fit for me because I would just show up to work. And my engagement had really waned. And I was getting more into the spiritual side of things, kind of learning more about myself. And I'm realizing that this is no longer serving me. It's no longer who I am, who I desire to
Mm.
be. Right. It's been that case for a while, but I would push it down and just suck it up and just go to work. Right. But there came a point then where it was like, I just can't do this anymore. And I think the lockdown set us up for that, like perfectly, right? It was like perfectly timed for me because it took me out of going to work every day. And the funny thing is, I've never wanted to work from home. I never wanted to work from home. And I was stuck at home. And so you got my husband who already was working from home. And then we got the kids at home. And
Oh
so now
my.
I'm like in the tight space with everybody. I'm like, oh, I got to get out. I got to get out. I got to get away from here. Right. So there was nowhere to go because everything was closed. And
Mm,
so the only place to go was out in nature for a walk. And so I would go for a walk with the intention of just being out there for as long as I could and eventually coming back to finish up the workday. Right. But my walks outside became less of an opportunity to get away and more of an opportunity to connect
mm,
over time. That's what it became. At first it was like you just got to get away. But then I started to hear and I started to really connect with Gaia. I started to hear and perceive like the wind, everything started to speak in a way that I
mm.
could feel like like viscerally feel. And I just it was at that point that I really got into connecting with nature. And so those walks to get away from the household turned into me walking and sitting in the middle of the field, just allowing myself to be on the ground, like just to be on the earth, just to put my hands, the palm of my hands on the earth and just do that. And then it evolved into meditating within that space. And so I would just sit in the middle of the field at this park behind my home and just meditate. And I started to really, really connect. And yeah, the rest is like history, like everything like skyrocketed from that point. When I said I was ready to leave the corporate world and I left, it was this period of like that darkness where you don't really know what to do. And it's where the journey of really discovering who I am, who I'm here to be, the who and the what of me, is when I really started to experience that. And it's just blown, like exploded ever since then. So now we are at 2023, 3 years in, and this is where we are.
Now,
fully tapped in, hearing the guidance, all those things. Yeah.
How does your husband react when you're like, yeah, I can't do this corporate thing no more, I'm out?
So it was even with him, it was a progressive thing. So he had no idea about this side of me because I always shielded that from him. My kids knew. My kids were really tapped in, but I would dim it or like turn it off or dial it down around him. So he really didn't know. So I had to, a part of this process was coming out of the closet, the spiritual closet, to him, number one, right? And so that was in 2020. That kind of all happened at the same time. And he was like, well, we'll figure it out. That was his response. We'll figure it out. Because I was expecting him to be like, I'm out. This is too weird. I'm gone. I'm totally out. But it was a risk that I was willing to take, because at this point I realized that I have to be who I am. Now, me leaving the job was like, I had talked about it for a very long time. So he knew. He wasn't necessarily blindsided by that decision. I think it was more surprising to him that I actually followed through and did it. And at that point, it was like, we no longer have a tie to Minneapolis. By this time, I realized that I didn't need so many things that I once thought I needed to be happy, i.e. the huge house, all these trinkets and things, these many rooms, this house with these many rooms. I was like, I went through my house and I realized that all this space is creating opportunities for us to hide from one another rather than bringing us together, which is what a home should really be. So I really sat down and decided what is essential to us and our home and us as a unit, right? And decided that we didn't need as much space as we had, and we could downsize and make it work with me having left my position. And it was like making that decision, it happened. I know it was divine order because it happened so quickly. Once we made the decision to move, it was like decision made. Next month, house on the market. Next month, house has sold. Next month, we are fully relocated. It happened like just that fast. Yeah.
Now I'm curious about the Florida thing. You said a couple of things that just resonate with my life, or mirror my life, I should say. In 2020, we left, we were over by the Gulf where everybody was, the crowds, the people near Clearwater. And we're like, we got to get out of here. So we moved out to the country, sold everything we owned and moved into an RV.
Okay.
That was challenging, but it was like, I was never so happy because I felt so free.
Right.
And now this year, in the past year, less than a year, we've moved into a small space, very like 1,000 square feet, and it's just like, wow, I don't ever want to go back to the bigness and all the stuff, even though I have a lot of stuff here because this is my little studio, this is my inspiration room, but I just don't, it doesn't matter. And I was hiding my woo-woo from my husband. He
Right.
knew some of it,
Yeah.
but he didn't know a lot of it. And then I started showing him videos of me meditating and orbs blinking through the room and things happening. And he's like, okay. But
Yeah.
now it's just like second nature to him.
Right. Right. You know, what I realize is not only does a bigger house create opportunity for you to separate yourself from
Yeah.
one another, because everybody would have their own separate corner, and you're like, where's my daughter? Where's my son? And everybody is tucked off in their
And you're
own little space.
texting from other rooms in the same
Right,
house.
right, right. Not only though was that a thing, what I realized is how I separated that aspect of myself from everybody else. So I had like a dedicated meditation space. Now this works for a lot of people, but this is just hear me out and you'll see where I'm going with this. Because I had a dedicated meditation space and I would only meditate in this particular spot, or I would hide myself away and meditate in the bedroom while everybody else was in their space. Now, what's happened is I've integrated more of my authenticity in myself, right? Like I've become more reflective of my authentic divine self in the physical, right? My home is now reflective of that. So
Mm.
now I no longer have a separate meditation space within my home, although I do have that. I have meditation areas throughout the house. It's like now I am fully integrated into the totality of the space. It's become a part of us, not a separate thing aside from my role as mom within the home or wife within the home. It's become integrated into the totality of us. So I have meditation spaces all over the place. There are crystals all over the space. When before I tucked them away
Yeah.
into my little corner of the house, and that was like my little shrine. Now I have those, but so does everybody else
Yeah.
within their space. Everybody has a crystal grid within their space.
Mm.
Everybody has artwork with light codes on it within their space. It's become more, I have become, the authentic me has become more integrated into the whole of the unit of us, if that makes sense.
And what a beautiful example you're setting for your kids. To be
Oh yeah.
meditating out in common space and have them walk through and see mom meditating, that speaks
Oh yeah.
volumes.
Yeah.
Now, how did you land in Florida? I mean, you could have gone anywhere, right?
Right, right, right. We could have. And I think I've only heard Dolores Cannon speak about this thing, but I feel like sometimes we as souls leave markers for ourselves when we come back, like when we come back lifetime after lifetime. And so, like being in Minnesota, I felt like this draw, like I felt like I was there for a reason outside of work, right? Outside of the job. Like there was something else for me there. And I realized there was something for me there in Lake Superior. Like there's an energetic
Oh,
portal in
yeah. Yeah.
Lake Superior tied to, like, is it the Pleiadians or something? It's like a Pleiadian portal within Lake Superior.
Mm.
And there was something for me there. So I connected with that space and I got what I needed from there. Like I literally saw all these light codes come up out of the lake when I was there, right?
Oh,
Okay, so when it was time to move and we were picking a destination, we had a list of maybe like 5 different places that were potentials. But every time I closed my eyes and envisioned, I saw the area of Sarasota. And I know that there is a portal in
yeah.
Sarasota, like there's a Stargate in Sarasota, right?
And the
And I
crystal
just,
sand,
right,
quartz
the
sand.
quartz sand, yeah. And I just felt this draw to this area, and I knew I had a vision and a meditation that there was something for me there because I was pulling something from this portal in the sky, right? Pulling something from there. And so that was the draw. That was really the only draw. And we targeted Sarasota and we wound up between Sarasota and Tampa, because my brother is actually located here. So now we are close to family. My kids
Oh,
have
how
family
nice.
here, which is good because we didn't have any family up in Minnesota. So yeah, that's kind of how we wound up here. I felt that draw, and I knew like it was confirmed in the vision, in the meditation. And then once I got here and just feeling the energy of the space in the area, I can't even describe the feeling to you.
There
It
are a
feels,
lot of light workers being
yeah,
drawn here, a lot.
right. And it's like this energy that's always there is powerful. If you feel energy, you will feel it here. I've never felt it the way that I felt it here. Because once we were driving and I felt like I was going to get sucked up out of my car. like I was like,
Wow.
it was that strong. But it's really being here within a peninsula, like, and I'm right on the, like right near the beach, which is an interface. All these things are
Yeah.
powerful, energetic spots. So yeah, it's just a powerful place. This is like
Yeah.
the most powerful place I feel like I have been so far, and this won't be the last place. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We travel a lot, and we start, we come back here every time and we're like, it's just a deep breath. And it's just like, we're home. And I've
Yeah.
moved all over the place.
Hmm.
I've never felt like I had a home anywhere until I moved here.
Yeah.
I always feel like it's some sort of Atlantean tie,
Yes. Yeah.
big time.
Without a doubt. Without a
Hmm.
doubt. I feel that for sure.
And I
Like,
think a lot of
absolutely.
us that are here are anchoring in something tied to that.
Yeah.
We really fucked that up, that whole Atlantean thing. But you know what I'm talking about. We're not going to screw it up this time.
Right. I feel that so much. Like I feel like I am doing that. Like I have this now big canvas in my living room, and it's full of light codes. Like my guides call them,
Mm.
like when it's like a combination of light codes, they just call it a phase shift because it's a shift in consciousness. This huge one that I created though is bigger than that, and they call it like a portal, and it's covered in Andara crystals that are from
Wow.
Mount Shasta, right? So it's
Wow.
like Andara shards all over this thing, and it is a power spot. It's like I'm anchoring energies from there here, like holding space. Like that's what I'm here for, is to anchor all of these energies here. And when I first moved here, I didn't even know that that was coming, that canvas was coming. But I had this intention that I was going to make my home an energetic power spot, a sacred power spot is what I called it, right?
Nice.
Like that's the vision that I have for my little plot of land that we have here, is that my house will be so full of love that it just emanates.
Mm.
Like you can feel it just like you would if you walked up to the pyramids and you connect with the pyramids and you can feel that energy coming off the pyramids. Well, if you walk around my house, you won't even know why. You just feel all this love
Yeah.
radiating out from my home. So I use the crystals to create a grid around my space and set the intention that it is a sacred power spot of
Mm.
love. Yeah.
I have no doubt. I'm gonna drive through Ruskin and I'm gonna go, whoa, she must live right there. Will you send me a picture of that when we're done?
Well, it's
Uh,
actually on my
uh,
Facebook page.
oh, okay.
I'll send you a link to it. Yeah, it's
I'll
huge.
insert it in here so people can see it because that sounds fascinating. So,
Yeah.
what was the process of that coming through?
For the light codes.
The light codes, when did that start coming through? Like I started since, here's another parallel. Since 2020, I started I started channeling when I started taking hikes in the woods.
Yeah,
The trees are my antenna. They bring
yeah,
in all sorts of stuff. And I started the light language with the hands.
yeah.
Every once in a while, spoken comes out, but not often.
Yeah. Okay.
So when
So
did it start for you?
so it was it's all a blur, like maybe like 2022. So okay, I'm telling you, when I turn like this, my guides are talking like that's like my body responds to the presence of
I figured.
the other side. Okay, yeah. But I think it was like 2022. And I was doing the channeling thing and I was moving, like my body would move, right? I would have this motion. So it was like silent channeling or silent meditation is what I would do in the very beginning. And it started to come that way. And I remember having a conversation with a friend, and she was tapped in too, and she started to perceive that something was near me, right? And so she said she just held space, and as she did, I could feel this energy like just cover me. It was like a warm, like a warm blanket, and it just covered me is how it felt at the time. And I was like, what the heck was that? Like what was happening, right? And the way I understood it after the fact was that it was like a merging happened. It was like an overlay coming down, right? It was Lyran. That was the energy that was coming down. And so, like the next night, I was sitting in my pyramid because I'll meditate in this copper pyramid. Have you ever meditated in those? It's like
No, I've
it's a
seen them in
power.
Sedona, but
Yeah,
that would be
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, meditating in the copper pyramid is a focused spot. So I was sitting in the pyramid meditating, and had the intention of recording one of these silent videos where I'm moving the energy basically, and you can feel the frequency and all that stuff. And so as I'm recording, moving the energy, I hear my guides, and they say the syllable ha, and I was like, what? Say the syllable ha. And I know the syllable ha is attached to the heart space, right? Ha, like ha. And I start saying the word ha, the syllable ha, making that sound, and it starts to get faster and faster and faster. And as it builds, it's like almost like I'm gonna throw up. It was like this bubble coming up, and it gets to here, and then it just starts pouring out of me like water. The light language just starts pouring out of me like water, and I can perceive it like it was almost like I was in myself, observing my mouth speaking these words that's just pouring out of me like water. And that's how it started, and from there it's just evolved as I have surrendered and worked on balancing the energies.
Yeah. So what do your kids and your husband think about this light language?
So my kids, they find it fascinating, interesting, and they call it the angel language. They say I'm speaking the angel language, and I'm dialoguing with the angels, and they always want to know what's being said. But there is sometimes every once in a while that they're like, I don't know. That sounds a little bit scary. Like, they kind of teeter between the two. So that's kind of where they are. My husband has just accepted it now as a part of who I am and how I bring this authentic aspect of myself forward. So it's really just become a part of the sauce now, which is crazy because I never thought it would. Like I never thought it would become so a part of us and so normal. Because like if you had asked me in 2020, I would have been like, no, they not gonna know how to process. Like they won't know how to process this, right? But how it's turned out is that the more I'm willing to surrender and go down that road for myself, then that alone sets the tone for everybody else. Frequency is real, resonance is real, and when you can operate in your space in an unhindered way, then you create the safety for everybody else to come to the table, because really it's not about them. It's about you and the frequency you hold, because you are the one projecting your own reality. You created by your own resonance. So once you get comfortable operating in that space, the totality of the creation that you are projecting falls into place, follows suit, and aligns with the resonance that you hold. So that's the value of operating in that space. It's never a need to fear the outside or what will happen on the outside, because you have the power to drive it in yourself.
When you've shored up your container and you're
Yeah.
living in your authenticity and you're living your truth and nothing else, is interfering with that, other people just naturally, they're either going to gravitate to it or they're going to shift
Or
away.
fall away. That's exactly right. Yeah.
And it's all perfect.
Right. Yeah. That is it.
Love it. So your name, Andena,
It's it.
help me here, Andana.
I am. Okay. It's pronounced Andena Sananda.
Andona. Okay. It's so beautiful. And it was given to you by your guides.
It was like dropped in my lap. Like, so I meditate and then I automatic write. That's kind of how I first kind of got started with the channeling stuff, is through automatic writing. And so I was sitting after a meditation, and I start to write, and I write, "This is your name," and I write the name, and I was like, "What? What is this?" Like, I didn't
That's not my name.
right. Like, is this like just some aspect of me? That's probably just like some past life thing, And no, they were like, "This is your name now, because you have evolved and you've aligned with this level of frequency. And so this name holds a frequency." So they said, when you hear it, see it, write it, think about it, those things, you will know, right? So I tested it out. So I'm saying the name as I meditate, and it's like this power charge that I can feel come through me, right? If I see the name, there's this powerful frequency that I can feel as it comes through. If somebody says it and I hear it, it's the same thing. It's like a summoning of that aspect of me, that multidimensional aspect. So that's what the name is associated with, the multidimensional us, that is focused here and is playing the role of Angela within this focused incarnation, right? The bigger aspect of us is Andena Sananda Kumara, and each of those syllables of that name hold a meaning and a frequency, and when combined, then they serve as a greater frequency that they hold, and a meaning that's associated with that name. So yeah, use it is what they said. Use it. So I was like, when I first got it, I'm like, do I have to change my name? Like, are you guys asking me to change my name? Is this what I should go by? No, this is the you that is now realized within this physical incarnation, the multidimensional you. So as you do this work, as you endeavor to operate within this space, do you use this name? Now, there are some people for whom Angela will always be. So like the kids, I'll always be Angela. I'll always be mom. To my husband, I'll always be Angela. I'll always be wife, as long as we are together. But in the grand scheme of things, Andena Sananda Kumara is the umbrella for the beingness that is operating as Angela within this space.
Sananda Kumara reminds me of Sanat Kumara.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with him?
Yes, I did all that research. When I got that
name,
I went down that rabbit hole. I did.
He was coming through for me very strong back in 2018 and 2019, and I never got to the bottom of it. But he was there with me for a time period.
Right.
So is he part of your
lineage? Yeah.
Okay.
So how I want to word that. Yeah. The entity, the being who was here as Jesus, right, is Sananda Kumara. That's his bigger, higher aspect name, right? Then you have Sanat Kumara, who came before that. So Sanat Kumara is like the planetary consciousness who came down from Venus to Earth. I believe that's where that energy came from, and focused here to help enlighten and guide the Lemurians. So there's like a direct connection with Sanat Kumara directly to Lemuria and the people of Lemuria, right? And so then you have the connection from Lemuria to Shasta, Telos,
Yeah.
and
And
okay. So here,
Venus and all that.
yeah. So this is the line I traveled when I went down this rabbit hole. It was like Sananda Kumara went from Jesus to Sanat Kumara. I went from there to Shasta and Telos, from there to the whole Agartha network, inner earth beings, inner earth, all those inner earth stories. And it's kind of been a journey since then. Yeah.
Wow, I haven't had any experience with inner earth energies or beings at all. How does that play out for you? And
connectedness, like so that there's like the indigenous tribes who come up from the inner earth. So like the start of civilization after the cataclysm, I think the one with Atlantis, I think there are
and the
stories
ant
of
people.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so they were assisted by the ant people, and they end up coming out of the earth around Central America, Central US, and that reigns. So there are stories of connecting to that space. In addition to that, there are the stories of the Naga beings, who are the serpent, the wise serpent beings connected with a lot of the indigenous tribes too. You see them reflected more in Indian culture, because you see the statues of like the people who had like the serpent lower halves and the human upper halves. Those are Naga beings too.
Wow. You are so studied on all of this. Is a lot of this just information that you brought in, or have you been going down rabbit holes, or all of the above?
So it's a combination of things, because it's like I receive like this intuitive knowing, right? But there's a need, at least for myself, to satisfy or to marry that with logic. So it's like, in addition to revealing certain things, a lot of information, my guidance will, on top of that, lead me to books. And so I follow the guidance, and I swear to you, it's as if one author has authored all these books that I follow, because the way that I read them is in such a way that the next book picks up right where the last one left off. And so I'm getting a progressive, being progressively inundated or shored up between the two hemispheres. So I'm never lacking on one side. There's always this proper marriage and balance between what I intuitively know and my logic that can help shore those up together. Because my whole aim for being here, the work that I do, is all geared toward oneness. So there is literally, it's like an intent focus on making sure there is not one side of me that is out of balance. It always comes married up with something that is going to appeal to my logical mind, so that the two aspects of me can be properly married together and understood. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't watch a lot of television, like mainstream, like television.
Yeah, I don't either.
I read a lot. Like, that's kind of like my thing. And my husband will say all the time, he said, you read books the way people drink water, because I go through books so fast. And I think that's part of the thing. Like, I'm supposed to. I don't even know, but that's just how it works out for me. So I'll get intuitively led to stuff. I'll get a download of information in order to shore up that intuitive stuff that I get, to marry it to my humanness, I guess. Then they lead me to some book that directly speaks to whatever it is that I just got. Yeah.
And your intuitive nudge the other night or the other afternoon, to come to our event on Saturday is interesting, because I've heard a lot of people in our community say, wow, I'm being pushed to get out face to face again. We got pulled away from that in 2020. And now everybody's being drawn more to get out in their communities, connect with people face to face.
Yeah.
Don't do the Zoom all the time. Get off of it once in a while. And
Yeah.
so talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. That's interesting for me because it's not it's not inherently natural for me because I've always been introverted. I've always been the shy one. And so operating behind the camera or behind the laptop has a certain degree of protection. If that like I
Yeah.
don't can't even believe I use that word, but protection as if you need protection, right?
Right.
But there's a certain degree of safety being behind the camera and not having to be out there and interacting directly with people. But I know that that's where I'm being called. That's what I'm being called to do. And it's like your event was so perfectly timed because they had just spoken to that. And I knew when you sent that through that it wasn't by chance. And so I toyed with it for quite a while. And I even woke up that morning thinking, I'm probably not going to go. Right. And I realized this is part of that pattern that I'm having to break myself away from
Yeah.
is, being out of the main scene and being out with people. So I had to really coach myself up that morning to actually go and be present. And I was glad, so happy that I went because it gave me an example. Like it served as an example for me on how I could do this because I've never done that type of event for somebody. Like I do it virtually. Like I produce all these videos and I'm doing that very thing that you guys did. I'm doing that all virtually, but being present within that event helped satisfy my logic and put it together for me how we could logistically do what we do virtually in a physical space. Like that was part of the marrying up of the logic for me, was being there and seeing that. And I got back home to my husband and told him, I said, it wasn't hard. I could do this. Like I could literally do this. I know I could do this and I would be okay. And I feel comfortable now realizing that, oh, this is something I can do. I can do this in my own space. I can rent a space and host an event like this. It's not that difficult. So yeah. It was cool. I was glad I came. Yeah.
I was so glad you came too. Wow, what a wild connection we had too. I love it. I love it.
I know.
And I think this is part of maybe our next upgrade is, going back to the connection in the physical. For some reason we were pulled away from that in 2020 to expand and go inward and shore up the vessel, so to speak. And now it's like, take all that, go back out and disseminate it to everyone so they can, just multiply the ripples in the water,
Right. Yeah. I think that's important too because we carry these frequencies, right? And it's one thing to transmit that frequency. I know there's no like distance, there's no thing between time and space and all
Yeah,
that.
because I felt your excitement when you got on today.
Yeah.
You knocked me over.
But there's also this value in being in the presence of another and then just holding that frequency of love and having someone physically be in the presence of that and feel that. It's like they just inundated with that frequency and they carry that forward. And it's really like, I don't want to say virus, but it's like something that spreads. It's like fire. Like fire. They carry a spark forward and then it spreads within their space. So yeah, I think there's value in not negating the physical meeting. Yeah.
Absolutely. So talk a little bit about some of the modalities that you work with and you share with your clients.
Okay. So, I was asked this on the weekend at that event, right?
Yeah, I asked you
And
that.
I went home thinking about thinking about like how do I articulate what it is that I do? It's like so many things, and it's so different and varied between everybody. There is not a cookie cutter set of things that I do for one particular client, from one particular client to the next. But what we have offered is like light language activations, channeling, and typically when I meet with somebody, it's like I have my team, and we get with their team, and there's like I say this conference that takes place up here in the space, and I can hear what needs to be shared or touched on, or how we need to
I love it.
approach this particular session. That's kind of how it goes, and it's been different between everybody that I've ever met with. It's always different. But what seems to be coming out more and more is the light language, number one, and that is being married with the artwork. So the light codes that I do, I do them in this real artistic way. I haven't seen anybody's light codes that look even similar to the way that I do the light codes. But when they come through, they are, how do I say it? They aren't just drawings. It's like energy captured in a 2D form.
It's infused into whatever
Yeah.
it is.
And so when a person interacts with these light codes, it's like they come alive, or they open up and create a portal to this person. So I've had many people I've worked with these light codes who say that they don't even feel energy, but when they've done this, they feel energy, or they are moved, that like body movements, they can feel them in that way. It's like something comes alive within them. There's a resonance, and that consciousness that comes through that portal of that image speaks to them. They speaks to them in the way they need to be spoken to. That is something that's coming into form. I literally just got this downloaded over the equinox, approaching the equinox. And I did my first set of activations. There are multiple phases, but we did phase 1 and 2 for everybody that I covered. And each of those people had a profound experience. Each of them had a different experience and profound. And since then, I've gotten downloaded like 3 more phases to go on top of that to progress people to the next level. So what it seems to be is that it's a process of guiding someone into the realization of their truth. It's like a step-by-step, like I'm guiding you from phase to phase. And in each of these phases, you are more opened up to the truth of you and discovering more about what that means to you, number one, and how that is seeking to be expressed through you. Yeah.
Oh. See, I same kind of thing. I had dragons come in for me last year, and at the end of the year last year, I was told I was going to be creating dragon art and dragon readings.
Yeah.
Now try telling your husband that.
Right. Well, it's so many things, right? It can express like as art, it can be channeling, it can be singing, it can be drumming. It's all these different things that you kind of put together and use in the way that works best for you. What I found though is like all of these things, all these disparate things came together, seemingly came together so separately, right? But what the focus has been lately is to merge all those. How can we merge all these things that we do into one offering that speaks to the multidimensional beingness of us? So it's going to hit you at many different sensory levels, not just one level, right? Yeah.
And the customization, it's like a recipe or putting together a menu for someone. Okay, well, we'll take a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and this is what, we'll put together, because each person's different.
Right.
And at a different place in their growth. And
yeah.
it makes sense not to just have one silo of this and one silo of this and one silo of this, just take pieces of whatever works.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think that's how shamans operate, right? How a
Yeah,
shaman would address someone who
yeah.
would come to the shaman's tent, right? And I was, for a long time, I tied myself to that label as the label that I operated under. But then I got to a space, they laughing. I got to a space where I felt like that didn't speak to the totality of what we do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a little bit more than that. It's like the virtual stuff, you got the computer stuff. And then I was thinking to myself, so what verbiage could I use that would encompass everything that we do? Because it's not limited to this, not limited to this, not limited to this. And so the label that I came up with most recently is Quantum Energy Alchemist.
I
And
love
that's,
that.
I do too, because it's
Wow.
so broad, it covers everything. So if I think of doing this, it's covered under that space because I'm working with energy, whether I use light or sound or anything. If I just sit here and project my frequency out, I'm still covered by this broad definition
Yeah.
of self.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to remind me that. I'll put it in the description. The Quantum Energy Alchemist, right?
Yeah, that's what I said.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I love it. I love it. So what kind of information would your guides and you like to share with everybody today? It'd be nice to have you kind of tie a little bow on top of this beautiful package that we've created together.
Yeah. It's said it's all about being your true self. Don't be afraid to step into your truth. Don't be afraid to step into your truth. And 9 times out of 10, you won't know what that looks like because you never lived your authentic truth. Typically, most people haven't stepped into their authentic truth. So when you leave that corporate job or you leave that thing that you've always done, it will be dark. You won't have a proper plan because there's no precedent for being you. There's no precedent for being you. Nobody else is doing it. Nobody else can show you how to do it. Nobody else can give you a proper example for what it is to be you because you are a unique reflection of the divine. So have patience with yourself. Give yourself the space and the isolation to get familiar with what it is to be you, to understand what that really feels like. Because when you get to a place where you can really get comfortable within yourself and you understand what it feels like to move, live, breathe, and do as you, as the authentic you, then the direction comes. The path comes because then it is inspired from the soul self. So there is no question on what to do next, which way to go. The path will light itself because it's being illuminated from the inside. It's not being pulled from the outside. It's not trying to be discovered from the outside. It is being fully illumined from the inside out. So give yourself the space. Have the courage to be authentically you, because in so doing, do you create the safe space for the people around you to follow suit. You create the spark that will encourage them to live their truth without fear, because within you being your authentic self, there is no judgment within your space. And people can feel that sense of non-judgment and acceptance and unconditional love. They can feel that, and that in itself can serve as the draw. Have the courage to be you, because within this space, it's how we change the world, because the world is not happening from the outside in. The world is being projected. Each of us is projecting our own life experience from the inside out. It is an inside job first. The outside will not change until we each have collectively done the work, released the limiting beliefs, because that is literally the only thing that hinders the realization of paradise. Release the limiting beliefs and allow yourself to walk in that truth, because in that truth is paradise. It will happen as a byproduct of each of us doing the work collectively.
Mm.
Yeah.
Beautifully said. Mm.
Yes. It's awesome.
Yes, yes. So one more thing.
Yeah.
Do you ever look forward? Where do you think we're going collectively as a human race?
I think collectively we are going wherever we choose to go. This is what my guys just said, because their whole push for me has been not looking forward,
I
not
knew
looking
that.
back, and sitting within the now. Allow yourself the pleasure of sitting in the now, because there is so much freedom and bliss to sit in the now, trusting that where you desire to go, as you reside within the heart space, where you desire to go will be given within the moment of need. This is how you learn to trust your own truth, trust your own guidance. It's not holding a script or a pattern or things you think you need to support you within the now. The only thing you need is a willingness and an availability to be present within the now. Within that space, operating from your authenticity is everything given. So learning to trust that it is a practice. Allow yourself to practice it until it becomes part of the sauce that is you.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Be part of the sauce. Put it in the sauce. I love that. I'm going to adopt that saying from you. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So if anybody is looking to connect with you, do you have anything coming up that people might be interested in, or where can they find you? And I will also post that below.
Okay, so you can get all my links on linktree/energy.of.oneness. Directly, I share most frequently on Facebook at energy.of.oneness, facebook.com/energy.of.oneness. And same thing for YouTube. If you go to YouTube/at energy.of.oneness, that's how I'm out there. And I share videos. Most of what I've shared most recently has been activation videos. I do a bit of spoken word where I try to marry many things. So if you are more mainstream, I try to put something out there that can appeal to people on many different levels.
Yeah.
So if you aren't into the light language fully, there is some spoken word out there, and that spoken word, it may include like some light codes to kind of subtly bring you kind of into the fold a little bit. Yeah,
I love
but
it.
there are those things out there, and soon I will have a video series. I'm working on producing a video series with interviews where I have people come in and talk about their story, the moment they decided to step into and own their truth. Because I think that's the sweet spot for us. It's not in let me rephrase. Before we can get to a space where we are ready for full disclosure, right? We have to be comfortable and settled within ourselves, connected fully with the authentic aspects of us, right? Understanding how to live in that heart space. Because if we aren't in that heart space, it's probably not going to happen. And if it did happen, it would probably go not the way that we would want it to go. So, yeah. So that's something that's coming up. The series will be called The Moment. And in addition to that, I do a weekly light language transmission. A friend and I, we call it the Quantum Light Connection. And we get on and we have a back and forth light language dialogue.
Oh, wow.
on YouTube. So yeah, that's coming in. So just to help people get comfortable with what it is to speak your soul's language, because really each of us is our best activator. right? You're your own best activator, but you got to get
Yeah.
to that space, that surrendered space where you can allow that language of the soul to come through. Yeah.
And it's not always spoken word. It could
Right.
be through hand
Hands
gestures or
and
drawings.
art. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Do you feel like you could do a quick light language activation of some sort?
Absolutely. I can
I
always
think your
do
light
that.
language is beautiful. It's so beautiful. It just really hits my soul.
Sounds good. I can do that. Okay. So take a deep breath and center yourself into your space of your heart and just allow yourself to settle within that space as you hear our words. Be ariano korama anyo de aso. Verre ande sotramo ure ande sotrekendo apare o. Direma atu de area to cambare sietramo ure. Vere ondo sietrakainso amore sotrakandia. Yore andu. Shere o vara. Rescendere como oai. Virgomba aide asotramo ure ando shekai. Zari andua. Vari andu shetramo ure andea sotrakai. Va ietu amba ue. Va are sotramo ure kai. Jere andu. Beremo ue. Rescendere kia sotrakai. Varo a shere. Resho amba. Vera mbokure anduke ambo. Jerema o seruke a. Re adundere o. Shere o se a. Vermo o. Shere o so. Ve acero. Tesoro. Rendukarama ore ashetre kosoa vare andia. Somera asendrekea jere o serato ke asotrokoa. Vare andukaramu ure shere asutrema a deo resho. Reshandrekea vare otunde asa. Reshandremu ure ante sotrokea vare o reshandrekeo va resho. Rishandrama uwe, rishande kai roshoa ratua she. Desamarushe, resha doa resha ratua she.
Wow. I could listen to that all day long. So beautiful. Nice. Now,
Awesome.
what's the translation of all of that, roughly?
A reiteration of what I just said. Stand in your truth. Having the willingness to walk in your truth, be your authentic self, and knowing that they are standing in support as you have need as you go through this ascension process, but they cannot trump your free will. So have the willingness to ask. They are present, fully present, and ready to assist as you have need and as you are willing to ask and make your requests known. Yeah.
Yeah, don't forget to ask. I think a lot of people forget to ask.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. Try to do it alone. Think you need to do it alone, but there are so many present, just waiting, like literally waiting in the wings to assist you, even if you think it's mundane. I'm asking for everything. Like that's how I roll now. I'm asking for everything because it makes life easier. You don't have to struggle. You don't have to struggle so hard. Just ask. And it is given every time you ask. Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here today.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate everybody that's joined us here. And we will say goodbye for now, but we got to do this again. This was a lot of fun.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
All right, my dear.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.